Ever since Shadows of Evil and Black Ops 3 Zombies, people have been begging for a new exciting perk to be added to zombies. The problem was that Treyarch felt that since you can only have 4 perks, Juggernaut, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, Stamina Up, and Double Tap are always going to be the go-to perks for the majority of the players. So if they were to add a new perk, it would have to be strong enough to be able to compete with those perks. So I'm assuming somewhere down the line they got to the conclusion that they're just not going to be able to create a perk that's going to be able to compete with the 5 main perks. So they decided to level the playing field by removing most of the primary perks like Juggernaut, Speed Cola, and Double Tap, and nerf the rest of the perks to make it easier to add new ones to the game during the game's life cycle. And as the result of that, we got an entire new perk system in Black Ops 4 Zombies, one that the majority of people just didn't like. The reason being, the perks weren't exciting anymore. It doesn't feel good being forced to choose between a bunch of crappy perks. It's kinda like choosing between gonorrhea and chlamydia. Now with Black Ops Cold War Zombies, not only did we get the old perk system back, but they also removed the perk limit, meaning now you don't have to choose between perks anymore. You do have to choose which ones to get first, but there is no limit in how many perks you can have each game. And that's not all that was new. After years of begging and pleading to get a new perk in the game, we finally got one. This new perk is called Elemental Pop. The description reads, every bullet has a small chance to apply a random base ammo mod effect. For tier 1, equipment damage also has a small chance to apply a random base ammo mod effect. For tier 2, reduce ammo mod cooldowns by 20%. And for tier 3, when random ammo mod is applied, it uses the ammo mod's current skill tier instead of the base. So basically, it activates a random ammo mod effect about every minute. The problem with this perk is that if we had a perk limit, there is no way anyone would ever buy this perk. Ever. But since they removed the perk limit, if you have enough points, you might as well get it. And even then, most of the time, even though I can afford it, I still don't buy this perk. I can understand what they were going for. They wanted to make a perk that puts an emphasis on using ammo mods. They want you to use this perk in combination with other ammo mods that you have already equipped on your 2 weapons. So when you use this perk without those ammo mods equipped, it feels extremely underwhelming. It feels like a waste. The problem is, even if you use it with ammo mods equipped, it still feels very underwhelming. And that's because of 2 reasons. One is that the ammo mods themselves are kind of underwhelming. It feels like a waste of time when you finally get an activation and you get Cryo Freeze, which can only affect 1 zombie and it doesn't even do any real damage. And 2, the cooldown seems like an eternity. Another problem it has is that the game has no way of telling you when your elemental pop is ready to be used. So you're just kind of shooting and hoping for the best. With the ammo mods, the game gives you this little attachment, and when the 2 little green lights turn on, you know your ammo mod is ready to be used. With Elemental Pop, you only get an indication when it activates. You get this purple aura around your screen to let you know your Elemental Pop has been activated. But there is no way for you to know when the cooldown is finished, so you can't even strategize with it in any way. It's too random, it takes too long for the cooldown to finish, the ammo mods are too weak, and the culmination of all those factors ultimately makes this perk unreliable. I will say this though, the one good thing this perk offers is that it reduces the cooldown on your ammo mods by 20%, which isn't much at all, but it's better than nothing. Now, if you have Napalm Burst, the cooldown is 3 seconds, and with Elemental Pop and the additional cooldown reduction that comes with it, your cooldown gets to about 2.4 seconds. So with Napalm Burst, you're not gonna see a visible difference. Now, a lot of people might not know this, but the cooldown time for the Cryo Freeze used to be 3 seconds, but with the latest patch, they actually changed it to 1 second. So if you have Cryo Freeze and Elemental Pop, your cooldown is gonna be 0.8 seconds. So much like with Napalm Burst, you're not gonna see a visible difference. However, if you have Deadwire or Brain Rot, that's when you might be able to tell that it's doing something. Deadwire has a 15-second cooldown, so with Elemental Pop, it's going to have a 12-second cooldown. Brain Rot has a 40-second cooldown, and with Elemental Pop, it's gonna have a 32-second cooldown. Another small minor issue is that the ammo mod attachment doesn't take into account the additional cooldown reduction that comes with Elemental Pop. So your ammo mod will actually be ready sometime before the green lights turn on. I remember there was another perk in Infinite Warfare Zombies called Change Choose, and that perk did exactly what Elemental Pop does, but so much better. And that's because the cooldown wasn't as long and the alternate ammo type effects were a lot more powerful, and they also chained the zombies and they helped you get headshots easier. The ammo mods in Cold War Zombies actually make getting headshots more difficult. The only one that might help you get headshots easier, especially with the new update, is Cryo Freeze. But if you're trying to do the Dark Ether camo challenges, I would stay away from these ammo mods. Another problem with Elemental Pop is that because it's so random, sometimes you might actually kill the last zombie when you don't mean to do so, and that's just another thing I noticed when I was playing around with this perk. Overall, I think Elemental Pop needs to be heavily buffed. It's one thing when people ignore certain perks when there's a perk limit. It's an entirely different thing when people ignore a perk when there is no perk limit whatsoever. They need to mess with the cooldown time to try to figure out how to make it work, because they're kind of stuck and restricted when it comes to the cooldown time. Right now it activates about every minute or so, and since the ammo mod is random, sometimes you get a napalm burst or a cryo freeze, and those two are not worth waiting an entire minute for. So if they reduce the cooldown time to say about 30 seconds, it's still gonna be weird because that's too short for Brain Rot and it's too long for Napalm Burst. There's too much of a gap between the different cooldowns on different ammo mods, and it's gonna be tough to figure out that sweet spot where it's not gonna feel like an eternity and it's not gonna feel too short regardless of the type of ammo mod that activates. If it were me who was tuning this perk, I would go by rarity instead of a single cooldown. For example, I would make it so that if I had Elemental Pop and I was just shooting with an assault rifle, I would get an activation about every 3 seconds, but I would not be able to get Brain Rot every 3 seconds. Most of the time, I would get Cryo Freeze, and every now and then I would get Napalm Burst, and Deadwire would be even more rare, and Brain Rot would be the most rare ammo mod activation that I would be able to get with Elemental Pop. Something like that would be more fitting than waiting an entire minute just to get a single Cryo Freeze or Napalm Burst activation. Either that or the ammo mods themselves need to be ridiculously buffed to make this perk more reliable. Or they could make it so that the ammo mods chain the zombies together. But as it stands right now, Elemental Pop is a god-awful perk, and I hope Treyarch gives it a buff soon so we can finally have the exciting new perk that we've been asking for years. That is gonna do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of Elemental Pop. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.